How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to video 2 in the series of how to record a song for beginners. Today's video is going to be dedicated to adding drums to the track, and we have our scratch track down. We're going to add drums so we can start filling in the rest of the instruments and get the song completed. Now, if you haven't watched the first video in the series, which is about getting set up and started in Pro Tools, I will set a link to that video right here. Okay, so like I said, this video is going to be dedicated towards adding drums to our song. Now, I know a lot of us don't necessarily have a drum kit at our house that we can mic up and do that way. So there's a couple other options that you have. You can download drum loops from the internet and try to match them with the right tempo. Or if you have a MIDI keyboard like I have here, then you can also use a plugin to add drums to the track. So I'll kind of show you a few of the different ways that you can do this. They'll all do the same thing. There is professionally recorded music doing all three of these different variations, so don't feel like one is necessarily better than the other. It's all going to go to your abilities that you have at your home studio and what your preferences are. So now let's dive into Pro Tools, and we'll pick up right where we left off and get these drums added. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to open up Pro Tools again. Alright, and it's going to bring us to this menu again. Now what we're going to do, since we already started this, we're going to go to Open from Disk, and then we're going to go to wherever we saved what we started in the last video. So I'm going to open up Highway Song here. Okay, so now it has my loop that we started for the guitar scratch track, and we're ready to add some drums. So the first thing that we're going to show you is how to add drums using a MIDI keyboard. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is we're going to have to add a new track. So we're going to go up here to Track, we're going to go to New, and this is going to be a stereo track and an instrument. Okay, so this instrument track, this is basically how to use your MIDI keyboard. You're going to want to use an instrument track if you're using your MIDI keyboard to play an instrument. Okay, so we're going to hit Create, and we're going to have this new track right here. Okay, now there's a few different ways that you can do this. Some people like to make separate tracks for the kick drum, the snare, all the different components. Other people just want to do everything on one track. You could do it whatever you prefer. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to add our instrument. So we're going to go to this Insert section. Now if you don't see this, you're going to want to go to View, and then you're going to go to Edit, Window Viewers, and you're going to make sure that Inserts is checked. Okay? Alright, so now we're going to click on this first button. We're going to go to Multi-Channel Plugin. We're going to go down to Instrument, and then we're going to use this Expand To. Now if you have Pro Tools first, this should be included with it, so you can have this, and it's going to open this screen. Okay, now the first thing that we want to do is we want to set some channels here, these first A, B, and C. So the first one, we're going to click on this down arrow, and we're going to go all the way down to Drums, and we're going to do the kick selector. And then we're going to go to B, we're going to go right back to Drums, and we're going to add the snares. So now we have our kicks, our snares, and then the last thing that we have to go through and add, we're going to go back to Drums, and we're going to do the hats, toms, and cymbal selector. Okay, so now after you have these all added, your MIDI keyboard should assign these all buttons, basically, or keys to press. So I got to record Enable. Okay, see, so we got some drum sounds. Perfect. Alright, I'm going to turn this level down a little bit. I'll do 2 decibels. Okay. Alright, so now what we want to do is we want to get a rough idea of our drum beat that we're going to put in this song. Now what I'm doing isn't going to be the exact same thing that they did on the record. but I'm just going to try to start building up my drum beat. So I'm going to start with pretty much the snare and kick for now. I don't want to overwhelm myself. I'm not really a drummer, and I'm especially not a keyboard drummer. So you can do this in different parts if that makes it easier for you. There's nothing wrong with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record enable, and remember I have my 2-bar intro with the click track, and then I can start playing. Okay, now what I did was I just kind of made sure to get my first loop covered, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in a little bit here. Now, I wasn't exactly perfect at playing everything. It's a little weird playing on keys, but we're going to drag this back to match our loop size, okay? And then we can right click on this and go to event operations and quantize. And what this is going to do, when I hit apply, it's going to lock everything into the nearest quarter note with the click track. So it's going to help eliminate what I messed up. So when I click apply, you can see everything kind of shifted a little bit. And now let's listen to what we have. So now we have a good loop, and we can continue this on by doing our Control D and duplicate, right? So now we have a nice good long loop here that goes with our song. Okay, so you get the point. Now, once you have this done, you have a good, idea of what your drums are going to do, and it's fun to kind of go back now. You don't want to have the same one be, for the whole song, right? It'll get boring, it'll be monotonous, and your listeners won't appreciate it as much. So now you can kind of go through, and maybe I want to change this one up a little bit, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute my click track. I got my 2-bar count in, so when I push play, I got 2 bars, and then I'm going to start playing again. So let's do that. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to right click on this. We're going to quantize to the nearest 16th note, hit apply. Alright, now let's listen to, from the very beginning, the difference with the drums, okay? Okay, so then maybe we want to change this last one that's the same as this to this one that we just did here. So we could do Control C, make sure we're on this right spot, Control V, okay? Now if you're going to copy and paste, I just want to say this, make sure that you're in grid mode up here, and this will lock you into the beat. Otherwise you might start being off by fractions of seconds, and you'll start to hear it in your song and things will get cluttered. So make sure that you have that on grid mode if you're going to copy and paste. Now what we want to do is we want to make another track. First we're going to turn the record ready off on this one. We're going to go back to track. We're going to do new, stereo, and we're going to add another instrument track. So what we want to do is we want to add the rest of the drums, which at this point is going to be some hi-hats, some cymbals. So now an easier way to do this, we'll call this cymbals. Okay. And then what we can do here is, instead of going through and resetting this up, we already set up our instrument, right? So if I hold the Alt key and click on this expand, oops, I didn't mean to do that. All right. If I hold the Alt key and click on expand, I can drag it to this next track, and it now has made the exact same thing that I have here. Okay, so we got everything all set up. Record enable on the cymbals. I'm going to record enable up here. I'm going to have my 2-bar count in, and then I'll be ready to start doing some cymbal work. All right. Okay, so now we got some cymbal work here. I think the middle one was probably my favorite of what I played, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that. Let me zoom in and make sure I got the whole thing. Okay, yeah. And then I'm going to hit Control E, and it's going to break these up. So I could select this one and delete it. I could select this one and delete it, and then I'm going to right click on this one, and you guessed it, we're going to quantize it again to the nearest 16th note. Hit apply. Alright, we're good to go. I'm going to bring this back here, and we're going to Control D so we can duplicate it. Let me zoom out. Alright, so now we have our drums and our cymbals. So let's go back to the beginning. I'm going to turn this record off and listen to what we have. Okay, now the other option that we can do would be to use an actual drum set. So I have a drum set downstairs in the studio, and I have it wired into a preamp that's hooked into my interface. So what I do is I have 16 channels in total, basically going through my interface onto my computer. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add the different tracks for these drums, and I'm going to show you how to set that up now. So I'm going to add a few more tracks. So what I'm going to do is an audio track, because these are mic'd up drums and they're all going to be mono, because again, anything microphone or instrument, it's just single side mono. So we're going to make 6 total of these. Okay, so I have 6 new mono audio tracks that I'm going to create. Okay, now we can see all of these here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all these and name them what I need and what I know that I have down there. So the first one is going to be my snare. Okay, so I'm going to add that. And then the next one is my kick. So I'm going to add that. Now the third one is going to be my rack tom, number 1. Okay. And then the fourth one is going to be rack tom number 2. My fifth one is going to be my floor tom. And then finally, my last one is going to be my overhead. So this is an actual condenser mic that's hanging over my drum kit, and it's going to get a little bit of everything and pull it into the mix. And when we get to mixing, I'll show you some of the cool stuff and why it's good to have that. Okay, so now because these are all microphones, we have to set up the inputs. So this would be the input on your interface, or in my case, my preamp that's plugged into my interface. I have all my drums going through the preamp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all those different microphones. So for me, I'm going to go to my interface, and then these ADAT, these are all the ones that are on my preamp. So ADAT 1 is my snare. ADAT 2 is my kick. Rack tom number 1 is going to be, you guessed it, ADAT 3. Rack tom number 2, ADAT 4. Floor tom, ADAT 5. And then finally number 6 is the overhead. Okay, so now that I have each one of these microphones set up, I'm almost ready to record my drums. Now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to record enable and make sure that these are all good to go. And now when I go downstairs and I start playing on my drum kit, it's going to play through, or it's going to record through here, and you're going to see the wave files. Now what I want to do is I'm going to mute these other drums that I made because I don't need them for this purpose. And basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be listening to the scratch track and playing my drums along with them. So now we should be ready to record here. I'm going to run downstairs and get this going. Okay, so now that we've recorded all of our drums here, right? And I just did enough to get a loop. Now keep in mind, if you're actually recording a song, you're going to want to play the whole course of the song. You know, I'm just doing a small bit of this for learning purposes. I'm not going to go through the entire song. These videos would be way too long and nobody would watch them. So just keep in mind that, you know, I stopped here. You want to play as much as you can in one take. Now, if you mess up in certain parts, you can go back and record just over that part if you need to. But you want to, the overall goal is you want to play the whole song through. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn all of these off of record ready. And we're going to give a little listen here. Now, again, I'm not a drummer, so don't be too critical on me. But let's give it a listen here and see what it all sounds like. Okay, now you guys have a better idea of a couple different ways that you can add drums to your songs when you're recording at home. If this video brought you any value, please hit that subscribe button and make sure to hit that bell notification as well so you can stay notified on when I add new videos. So the next video that I'm going to do in the series is going to be playing bass on top of what we have so far and kind of, you know, building our song up. And there's a couple different ways that we could do bass as well. If you have a bass guitar, we can plug it in like we did with our regular guitar, or we can use a different plugin as well, and you can do bass on the MIDI keyboard if you want to do it that way. I'm going to make sure that I leave a link for the playlist that this series is in, which is again, how to record a song for beginners. I'll put a link right up here, and that'll take you to the playlist. And that way you can kind of get caught up in case you're jumping in the middle or something like that. But again, following these plans in the order that we go is going to help you make a good radio-worthy song right at home. So for now, I'm going to sign out and be on the lookout for this bass video as we continue the series, and I'll see you guys soon.